Jim Curtin out in Philly after 10 years.
10 years, a whole decade. Second longest tenured manager in Major League Soccer to Peter Vermees, who still has his job. This feels wrong and understandable at the exact same time, Rob, which is, and I think there are lots of Union fans who are conflicted today. I see our man Mike Thomas is in the chat watching the show. And here it is, right? Long time, wasn't perfect. He was not the problem. But the argument is that Jim Curtin took the fall for a bad season that really wasn't about him, that it was about the roster, about the decisions made, about what Ernst Tanner did or did not do, what Jay Sugarman as owner did or did not do. And that's mostly about just, throwing that cash. You got to throw that cash. How could you be named Sugar Man and not throw cash? That's what
I'm... Sugar Man. You got to give me a little bit of Sugar Man.
You got to throw it out there. That's what this is about. But at the same time, I think if you're a Union fan, you have to recognize that somebody has to go. And maybe Ernst Tanner should have gone, right? Maybe that's the argument. You're just bitter that it was Jim Curtin that went instead of Ernst Tanner. If you're not going to fundamentally change your attitude about spending, if Sugarman is not going to become Sugarman, if he's just going to be Jay Sugarman, well, then you've got to change your approach. Something's broken in the relationship. Something is broken in how this team moves forward. And I could see it as a positive new beginning on some level. I've seen it sort of theorized that this represents a full turn to just being a developmental club and not necessarily being willing to go out and find those older veteran players who could make you a contender via their experience. This is kind of like, let's just lean into the kids and see what we can do with that. And we'll become the machine that pumps out talent that gets sold and brings revenue into the club. And maybe every now and then, if we have enough revenue, we can, from sales, from transfers, we can buy the players that are going to help us be contenders. It feels like, and I've seen some reporting on this, that Curtin and Tanner did not see eye to eye on some of these choices. I've also seen some pretty harsh criticism of Curtin's management of this team this year, that they had the fourth fewest substitute minutes this season, that Curtin seemed locked in on his guys and was unwilling to turn to maybe a new crop of players when it felt necessary, when the results weren't coming. That they've certainly aged, right? It's certainly hardened this group. And instead of that allowing them to sort of use that experience to be competitive, it's meant this slow decline that saw them miss the playoffs in 2024.
Over that 10-year span, Curtin's record there with Philadelphia Union, 174, 93, and 138. So well into the black on his record as far as getting far more wins than losses. Before we ask what's next for him, with his name, his last name, being Curtin and losing his job, what has been the most fun headline you've read on this story?
Oh, I don't think I've seen any really good ones. I just saw the first Athletic story. It wasn't, curtains for Curtin, or what was your pun? Something about the drapes.
The drapes have dropped.
The drapes have dropped. The curtain has dropped on Jim's Philadelphia career, something like that. I mean, I don't know. You got a good punny headline for Jim Curtin getting fired, which feels, the curtains are on fire. Oh man, that's terrible too. What are we doing here? Let's talk about what you said about what's next for Jim Curtin, because Jim Curtin has long been a guy, and Nate's throwing it out. This will be good for Curtin in the long term. He needed to move on to challenge himself a long time ago or some time ago. Lots of potential for growth here. That's what I'm hoping, right? That this is the catalytic event that allows Jim Curtin to try something else. And selfishly, this is not, I don't know if this is what Jim Curtin wants. Remember, he is a Philly guy, right? He's been coaching his local team. They didn't exist when he played in Major League Soccer. And we can talk about the team that he used to play for and the fact that they've already hired somebody, and maybe they would have liked to have a chance at Jim Curtin a couple weeks back. But this was his hometown team. I think when he turned down the opportunity to interview for Atlanta, which was reported this week by Tom Bogert, that was probably what it was about, right? Not only was he a loyal guy to the team that was paying his contract where he had coached for 10 years, but he's a Philly guy. How do you say, let's leave the hometown team and go coach somebody else? But selfishly, I would love for him to really, really, really shake the bushes and try to get a job somewhere in Europe. Now, I don't think it's easy. I don't think it's like, hey, just throw your resume out there and he'll get hired. Like even at the championship level, right? And Coventry City has an opening now. They just fired their long-term manager. Is Jim Curtin a guy who could get a job at a place like Coventry City on the back of MLS? I don't know. I think that would be a test case for how the rest of the world, especially English football, views Major League Soccer in 2024. And I don't think we're at that place yet, Rob. I don't know that we're there. So I don't know what his options would be, but that's selfishly what I would want to happen.
Yeah, that's a great thought. Jim Curtin in the championship for Coventry, paving the way for American coaches on the back of, getting blood from a stone, as we saw from Mike. And there might be some value in that understanding if minds are open enough to consider what his payroll was and the what he was able to generate from what was at his disposal.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were going to go into it, just what he had and what he got out of it, there's a case there, but it all has to be on the other end, what they see as merited. But that would be interesting seeing Jim Curtin in the championship playoffs at some point. That's a fun thought.
Yeah.
Just a quick note, Bruce Arena in at San Jose. Any thoughts on that before we move?
Good, smart move for a team that's in a desperate situation that really needs somebody to come in and take control because they haven't had direction. He's going to be the president or something like that, and Chris Leach is still going to work underneath him, which is crazy that Chris Leach is still in the job at this point after everything that's happened. I think Lucio Gonzalez was a Chris Leach hire, so that doesn't look good on his record. At the same time, there's a sense that, I mean, Bruce is more than 70 years old at this point, right? It does feel like you're really not looking to the future. You're really not you're not moving with the times when you're hiring a guy who's 70 plus, even if he does have a track record. He will make San Jose competitive. I can't go any farther than that. I can't say anything more than that because so much of it, just like we're talking about with Sugarman and Philadelphia, so much of it comes from whether or not John Fisher's willing to spend some money on a soccer team. And I know, he's not going to be getting that ticket revenue, that sweet, not that Oakland was drawing a lot of fans to watch baseball at the Coliseum anyway, but he's got a minor league ballpark he's trying to fill up. And it's not going to, even if he does, there's not a lot of money there. So I don't know. This is an interesting moment for the Quakes.
I had a kind of funny thought. Bruce Arena as the Roy Hodgson of MLS. Kind of bring in the experienced gun to get you out of the bottom of the league.
Yeah, he is that. The thing about Roy, though, is that Roy was managing at clubs where if you just stay up, that's success. And that's not going to be the measure of Bruce Arena at San Jose. Even if he improves them and they move 4 or 5 spots up the table, if they don't make the playoffs, it doesn't matter. And maybe even that, maybe just making the playoffs isn't good enough anymore, especially if you're saying you've got control of everything. You are our soccer czar now. You not only are going to coach the team on the field, which, again, at over 70 years old is kind of a thing. He's going to be delegating quite a bit of what he's doing out there, but he's also going to be picking the players, or he's also going to be directing the personnel project in San Jose.
We shall see how that turns out.